Great to see everybody here today. Thanks to Stephen and to Sharon for the warm welcome here. Sharon gave me a lei to make up for the fact that I don't have a Hawaiian shirt in my bag, but I'm not wearing it, but I'll wear it later. It's great to be here today, and also I guess I know this is a very global audience, but a happy Martin Luther King Day for those from the U.S. I know we're celebrating Martin Luther King Day today. It's an opportunity, and so I apologize that you're here listening to me instead of enjoying a day where you could be celebrating diversity, belonging, and inclusion, all factors that we probably need more of in this world and that are very important to Equinix as a company. So happy MLK Day. I'll start on a personal note and talk a little bit about something that, for those of you who may have been following my communications publicly on social media and elsewhere, I've talked a lot since taking the role about 5 months ago as CEO of Equinix about approaching that job with an in-service to mindset and propagating in our culture a mentality of being in service to, first and foremost, our customers. And this is a great opportunity for us in that at PTC, probably the vast majority of attending companies at PTC happen to be customers of ours somewhere around the world. We're honored to have the opportunity to be here and address you and again bring that in service to mindset to you. So starting in service to our customers, in service to each other, in service to our shareholders, the communities in which we operate, and our industry at large. And so this is a great opportunity for me to be in front of our peer group community and the ecosystem that we're part of here at PTC. So it's great to be here. And I'm particularly excited about the topic or the theme for this year's conference of pipes to platforms. Very appropriate, and one that I have sort of been along this journey now for, I hate to say it, almost 25 years, starting at Bell South in the mid-90s, launching the internet business there and realizing that there were folks there who believed that it was the CB radio of the 90s. As it turns out, it wasn't. It was a fundamental transformation that a year later everybody realized was going to entirely change the industry in which we operated. In the early 2000s, for a period of about 6 years, we had the opportunity and the good fortune to be part of Level 3 and running our soft switch business there and other businesses, but really seeing the impact that software was going to have on our industry and the incredible transformation that was going to take place as a result of that. And then the last 8 years at Equinix, and particularly the last 3, seeing the beginnings of digital transformation and its impact, particularly in this more cloud-centric era. And so I think the theme is very appropriate. So that's what we're going to talk about here. I'm going to hit the treetops in the 20 minutes or so I have with you. But look, this topic of digital transformation is one that all of us are thinking deeply about every single day. The reality is it's transforming every industry across the globe, and it is no longer sort of the province of IT, but instead digital transformation is fundamentally a fundamental business priority and a board level issue for companies. And it's changing every industry across the planet without exception. I've listed a few here. Some of these are ones like retail, with the advent of Amazon and their role in electronic retailing that is completely transforming industries, or what rideshare is doing with Uber and Lyft and others in transportation. But literally, you cannot find a sector of the economy in which the basis of competition isn't fundamentally changing due to digital transformation. And of course, communications broadly, what some might still call telecommunications, but more broadly, communications is changing from a very network-centric, connectivity-centric value proposition to one that is much broader, with a rich tapestry of services associated with enabling digital delivery across the globe. And in doing that across these industries and dozens of others that we could list, what we're seeing is, as it relates to the infrastructure to enable and power digital transformation, that a very clear architecture of choice is emerging. And that architecture of choice has 5 key elements to it. One, it's global, and we'll talk about each of these in turn. It's highly distributed, it's cloud first, it's hybrid, and it's multi-cloud. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these, then I'm going to talk about some of what customers are requiring from this architecture and how Equinix specifically and we collectively play in that ecosystem. So distributed and global. Let me start with global. This is some telegeography statistics in terms of both provisioned and used bandwidth across regions. And as you can see here, there is no slowdown. In fact, there is an acceleration of this, sort of insatiable appetite for bandwidth and having that bandwidth be cross-regional. I saw an interesting article the other day that was talking about that trade of physical goods across borders is actually slowing. And that's slowing for a variety of socio-political reasons, including trade tensions and an appetite for more local goods and other socio-political kind of issues. But that is being more than offset in sort of the macroeconomic sense by digital services. And the trade of digital services across country boundaries and across regional boundaries is accelerating at a breakneck pace. And that's what's creating this incredible demand for interregional bandwidth. On the right-hand side here, you see actual used bandwidth, and as you can see, from 16 to 17, I think you're seeing the front edge of a little bit of an acceleration of that, caused in part, I think, by significant investment in subsea capacity, and I would expect that we're going to continue to see some hockey sticking of this geographic requirement, interregional requirement over the coming years. So global is absolutely critical. It's a global economy, global customers. People want to interact with their customers and their supply chains on a global basis. Second, it's highly distributed. The world of the enterprise glass house is long gone, or at least we're trying desperately to make that happen as quickly as possible. And distributed infrastructure is the requirement. I'm going to talk a little bit more in a few minutes about why that is. But just to give you a sense, a couple stats that aren't on this page, but to give you a sense from an Equinix point of view, our business now, 85% of our business is from companies that do business with us in more than one metro, and 60% of our revenue is from businesses that companies that do business with us across all three regions. So an incredibly global climate, and if you look at our top 10 customers, every one of which is here at this conference, and I hope representative of those probably here in the room, if you look at those top 10 customers, they are on average deployed with us at 60 locations across the world, and many of them north of 100 locations. So it is global and it is highly distributed in terms of the architecture of choice. The third piece is cloud first. This is just very simply a reality. And according to RightScale, 96% of organizations are now using the cloud in some form, both public, private, and hybrid. And this is giving rise to a market opportunity in terms of a retooling of IT spend from traditional sort of architectures and means into cloud spending, which is growing at a 6x rate. And so cloud and cloud first thinking and the desire and ability for people to move workloads into the cloud is a reality that we face every day for our customers. Interestingly, I would say that I think the benefits of that cloud first mentality and the movement of workloads to the cloud, perhaps particularly to the public cloud, those benefits have, for some customers, been illusory or at least highly complex in terms of capturing them, more complex than they originally thought. And so that's what we're seeing every day is working with our customers as they embrace this mindset, but then helping them navigate that as a trusted advisor as they move towards their architecture of choice. So it is clearly cloud first, but it is also very much hybrid. And I think we have seen this really accelerate over the last 18 months to 18 to 24 months, a very strong sort of belief that hybrid is the architecture of choice, a belief that private infrastructure is a significant reality in the end state architecture of virtually every enterprise and service provider, CIO. 71% of organizations saying they're using hybrid cloud. I actually think that's a definitional problem, because because I think it's much closer to the 96, especially when you incorporate SaaS as really a cloud or hybrid cloud type architecture use case. But at a minimum, this 70+% of organizations embracing hybrid cloud as their architecture of choice. And again, that's giving rise to this massive market opportunity, $317 billion market. But interestingly, if you look at another piece of research that's not on here, according to 451, currently only about 9%, a little less than 10% of workloads, right, 9 and change, are actually public IaaS today. Now, that's growing at a very accelerated rate, for sure, no doubt about it. But the vast majority of workloads either are still sitting in an enterprise 1.0 state with traditional IT architectures, or moving into a state where hybrid cloud is really the preferred architecture. And putting private infrastructure immediately proximate to the public cloud is what our customers are certainly demanding, and what we're working in partnership with many of you. Fifth and last, it's multi-cloud, and people are realizing that what is needed for them to reach their end state is a range of cloud services, not only from a single provider, but from a broad range of providers. Again, according to 451, 69% of organizations in their surveys saying they'll have a multi-cloud environment by 2019. Again, I believe that's probably significantly understated. And then on average, according to RightScale, cloud users today using on average approximately 5 clouds. I will tell you that for us as a company, and I would consider us a mid to large size global enterprise, we use dozens. And we use those both over public and private connectivity, and we integrate them significantly with our own private infrastructure as part of a hybrid cloud architecture. So again, this global, highly distributed, cloud-first, hybrid, multi-cloud is really the architecture of choice that we're seeing. And that architecture, what we're finding though, that customers have certain demands of that architecture. And therefore they need to think carefully about where that architecture resides and how it is interconnected. And the dimensions of the problem, or their requirements, are also fivefold, with the interconnected edge really being a bridge between that architecture of choice and these requirements. The first is performance, and it's much more than just about network latency or network performance. And yes, a ping giving you some reasonable sort of latency is a good start. But what we often find with customers is that they find that the end-to-end application performance for the user is subpar, even if the core networking is really satisfactory. And therefore, this need to push towards the edge and have greater levels of interconnectivity, particularly private interconnectivity, between the elements of their architecture is critical. And we live in a very deconstructed IT world. What used to be a world where networking, compute, storage, applications, security was all racked and stacked in a single cab or cage, all right next to each other. We are now seeing a world in which that compute is one place, the database is in another place, cold storage is in a third place, security is actually delivered via the cloud, applications and utilities are used from elsewhere, and the performance that's needed in that environment is very difficult to achieve if the infrastructure is not placed immediately proximate to one another into the cloud. So the first requirement is performance. The second one is cost. And this is really an ongoing balance and a balancing act for customers to balance networking costs, core infrastructure costs, applications, application management, and really look for the best possible sort of total cost of ownership over time. And what we're finding is that the customers increasingly are finding that the fundamental unit economic advantages of intra-data center connectivity or data center to data center aggregation are driving how they think about architectures. Still needing that wide area requirement to reach all of the users that are required, but thinking differently about how to drive costs down in a cloud-first world. Third one is security. It used to be you understood where your perimeter was. It is now a very uncertain thing, and security in a cloud-first world is something that we talk deeply about our customers with. We have one of our playbooks here on our distributed security value proposition and how we work with members of the security ecosystem to really create a secure environment in a cloud-first world, and I encourage you to take a look at that. But security is this third issue really driving architectures to reside at the interconnected edge. Fourth one, compliance. Again, this is a fundamental reality, right? In a world where privacy concerns and data sovereignty requirements are intersecting in ways that are forcing people, in order to achieve compliance, to place their infrastructure in a geographically distributed way. And then finally, flexibility. And by this, I mean that people are no longer, they're trying desperately not to architect for what is required today, but architect for what might be required tomorrow. And so a level of flexibility in terms of how their architectures might change, who they might be using, which clouds they might need to access, all of that critically important, particularly as they try to avoid some of the past and some of the legacy issues around vendor lock-in. Instead, they want a very highly flexible, with high optionality for really this multi-cloud environment. So that's what we're seeing is really this, the desired end state architecture and then these customer requirements coming together to really place architecture at the interconnected edge. Fortunately, I think we have a role to play in that, a very significant role, and we talk about our role, as for many of our customers as that interconnected edge. This tagline of reach everywhere, interconnect everyone, integrate everything. We bring to the table an exceptionally diverse and global platform. Now, I lose track. We actually added Seoul, Korea to the mix, so I guess we're now in 50 or 25 countries. And 54 or 55 markets, and 200 plus data centers around the world. And so that ability for our customers to reach everywhere is substantially improved by their willingness to work with us as a trusted partner. Interconnect everyone, we're now 300,000 private interconnections strong, both physical and virtual. Virtual growing at a very accelerated rate relative to physical, but physical still growing in a very significant way due to the benefits of aggregation. And then integrate everything, and that's really working with customers to develop full solutions, and I'll talk a bit more about that. What's happened is that is really transforming our business. As you see here, the animation showing you our, essentially, this is just our physical cross-connect population. It's not working. There's more than that. So that animation, other than the thing going across the bottom of the page, is supposed to work differently. You guys have probably all seen these, but it actually it changes pretty significantly. But one thing that doesn't change is networking actually as a percentage of sort of the Z end or the A end is actually reducing because the complexity of the ecosystems and the number of participants continues to grow. And so if you looked at this animation and it worked, you would find that our financial ecosystem has grown extensively, content and digital media has grown extensively, and most significantly of late, in the period from 14 to 18, and I'm walking you through this, is cloud and IT and enterprise are growing substantially. And so this interconnection ecosystem is really transforming the way we do business and the value that we provide to our customers. So, in terms of how that's affecting all of your businesses and the business that we do together, it's really requiring an adaptation for how customers think about it and how service providers. And having spent probably most of my career in service providers, I think it is a shift in mindset, it's a shift in capabilities, and these are just a few of the things that we're working with you and with our other customers around. First is adjusting to that cloud-first mindset. And I think that to their credit, Amazon has retrained the world for how they think about consuming things. It's about ease of use. It's about instant provisioning. It's about flexibility and elasticity and infinite scalability. And these are all things that they have become accustomed to. That is the cloud consumer mindset. And if I were really honest with ourselves, again, having worked with us, that sort of easy, fast, flexible, scalable are not necessarily the hallmarks to some degree of how service providers have shown up in the ecosystem. But I think that's changing, and I think we're rapidly embracing that and working to be more responsive to a cloud-first buyer. Second, cultivating ecosystems. The reality is nobody can go it alone in this world anymore. It's too complex. The technology and the value propositions are moving too quickly, and so people being able to cultivate solutions that include third-party value and put them in, together for a customer quickly and easily is critical. And interconnection is a key driver of that. And then finally, unlocking value at the edge. This room and all the people at this conference have some of the most powerful edge assets in the world. And so while this is, I think, an evolving value proposition, eventually the integration of those far edge assets with the current digital edge that's representative with Equinix and others like us, and using that to unlock value for customers at the edge is a significant value proposition. So these are just three of the things that we're working with our customers on. I see a bunch of my team here. Hopefully it's not all Equinix folks in the audience, but I do know we have a significant number of folks here. I'd encourage you to meet with them and take a look at our network service provider playbook as well as our distributed security playbook, and talk to our group of solution architects and other people that can help you think about some of these and other value propositions that are active in the service provider space. So I'll close by simply saying thank you. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to all of you for your business that are Equinix customers. Like I said, probably most players here are at some level. I'm very excited about what we have in front of us as an industry, and certainly Equinix as a company. And I believe that together we can indeed create a more connected world, or perhaps more accurately, a more interconnected world. So with that, I'll say thank you. Have a great conference. It was great being here.